you please look up this site?
See if we can figure out something.
Hi guys, thought I'd go live a little bit earlier than I put, so we can finish watching Judge Fleischer, and because the notification only goes out once I actually hit the go live. The sun is so crazy right now. I think I need to put something up there. I'm going to put Judge Fleischer on. Hey Bug Dugger, I'm going to put Judge Fleischer on in the meantime. And when people have started joining and it's a little closer to the 20-minute mark, then I'll jump over to the trial that I wanted to watch. Let's do that.
Yes, I don't know what it was a problem getting on. I apologize. I was
Doing great. Come up, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Garcia wanted his conditions modified.
Yes, Your Honor. I wanted to approach on that. As you can recall, we haven't had any hiccups outside of one previously where there was an issue with him going to his AA meetings at an inappropriate time. Since then, Mr. Garcia hasn't had any issues. As far as what I've been told, I actually was able to check in with pre-trial. He told me that he has been doing a pretty good job as far as meeting all the conditions of the court. So, and he also is a welder. With his work, he has to work around his curfew, and he's been doing that. But it is a great detriment to have to come in 3 times a week for that.
I will relent on that, Mr. Hatton. Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
I think that I'm not going to take it fully away.
Okay.
But life is about earning trust in baby steps. You have a lot of serious cases now, and you've been doing good as far as I can see. I haven't gotten any negative, or I haven't gotten any bad feedback, so I'm willing to work with you. Okay. I'm not going to let you out in the middle of the night. I'm going to tell you that now. Okay. What do you want from me? Tell me, what do you want?
If I may, Judge, I know that there were 2 things as far as extra time on the curfew, but then specifically the 3 times a week testing, coming into court, testing 3 times a week. If it could be 1 time a week, I think that could greatly help him as far as with his work. He can pick up more work than he's getting right now.
Mr. Hatton, I'm okay with that. I think that he's been doing well, and I will relent to that.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
I will leave it to you guys to choose what day that he's got to come back. Okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
But I'm definitely not letting him out in the middle of the night.
Can we get the curfew to 9 o'clock?
You want it to 9 o'clock? I'm okay to 9 o'clock if you want 9 o'clock. All I want is our streets to be safe, Mr. Garcia. And I want everybody in Harris County to be protected. That's all I want. And I hope that I've gotten your attention. If this is the worst that has happened to you so far, it's not that bad. It could be a lot worse in your life, let me tell you. You could be living in a 6x9 for the next 15 years. That would be bad because you would be away from everyone. I will, if you want the 9 o'clock, I will give you to 9 o'clock, and I will amend it to where you can only come once a week from now on. You must still understand no alcohol, no drugs, and no driving them. So do not pick up any new cases. Little by little, we will work to ensure that you get the fact that we mean business. That's it. Okay? Okay. All right. So just take a seat and then we'll have Tracy modify the conditions for you. Let Mr. Hatton know what day you want, because I need to know what day you want to come in. And then I'll let you choose what day you come in.
Mr. Garcia, which day would you like?
Excuse me?
What day?
Like,
My birthday?
No, which day during the week would you like to have it to where you come into the court for your testing?
No matter.
Which day works best for you?
What day do you want to come back? You have to pick.
Mondays?
It is Mondays. Okay.
We'll do Mondays.
Do it for Mondays from now on. Okay? No alcohol.
No, sir. I promise.
Okay? All right. Just take a seat. We'll fix it for you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay.
So 9 p.m. to 6 a.m.
9 curfews and 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then he'll come every Monday to test.
Are they excused?
Hold on, Mr. Hatton.
So it's coming in every Monday now.
Yeah.
So we need to pick a reset date.
I need a normal reset date for you, Sherman. So tell me what day you want, or what are we looking at?
Is discovery complete? Are there any offers?
Right now, Your Honor, I believe that we're waiting for the felonies. As you can recall, the felonies are, and it's not like a delay in the misdemeanor, but I have spoken with the complainants. To be frank, everybody just wants him to be able to get help for that problem. I think that outside of that problem, everybody seems to think that Mr. Garcia is a pretty great person. So I'm waiting to see if there's going to be that kind of treatment availability for the felonies. That's going to dictate what happens with the misdemeanor.
Okay. Do you want to put it on the same day as the felony, which is July 16th? For
That'll
you.
work. Let me look real quick to make sure.
And then is discovery complete with us?
Are there any offers?
There are no offers for us.
I'm assuming it's going to be a global offer, I mean,
That's what I would want, Your Honor. I feel like that would be in his
Yeah.
best interest.
the stuff upstairs is going to swallow this,
Yes, Your Honor. I'm in Fort Bend on the 16th. Can I do the 17th?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. It's yours. All right. Thank you for coming, Mr. Haddon.
Thank you. Y'all be well.
Take care. Hi. Hey, Hunter, what's up, man?
Guzman.
Back there? I'm on.
So he was accepted to PTI.
Okay.
We've got all the paperwork filled out. He's going to get the interlock, I believe next week. And then he should have the DA fee the week after that. So
You want 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. No, not issue. You got it. Whatever day you want. For sure.
Judge, I have some case reviews.
Okay. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, who's
Okay,
first?
the first, this one, I guess he's on docket today and it just came, Daniel Fraser. He did the updated TRAS. The first one recommended T-proceed, this one recommended SAT.
Good.
I gave it to his attorney and his attorney said he didn't want to do that and he thinks they're gonna set it for trial.
I'm gonna
I
set
don't
for
know if
trial.
he approached it.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as the case reviews, the first call.
Hey, Frazier, they recommended SATA. He said no.
And he recommended you want to trial.
No. We going. That's it. Okay. who's
Okay.
next?
243
Okay.
106 6.
Cassidy.
Yes, they're asking for a 6-month extension for him to complete the DWI repeat offenders course.
He hasn't done it yet? He has a felony DWI on probation too.
And so that's the problem. He has a
No.
lot of, okay.
No, bring him here, please.
Okay, so he works offshore, so I don't know what days are gonna work for him, because he works 28 days and then he's here 14 days, so I'll have to figure it out, but, okay.
Okay.
And then the next one, this is just a travel request for cause 244
Mhm.
9823.
Ordonez?
He's completed all of his classes and programs, he's just behind on his fees.
Cut the fees. Don't care.
Okay, he's going to
He's in compliance.
Yes,
I'm happy with that.
perfect.
Of course he can. Well, I don't know. No sake. No sake.
No, it's not.
Hey, I gotta go back to one. All they have is one plea.
That's what you said earlier.
So they said, that's how they beat you over.
That's right. But look, we're almost done, right?
The only one I have back there is Frazier.
Okay, let me just go do this. What?
Yeah. That's the one y'all were just talking about going to trial with?
Kim Brooker, who was here earlier.
Ah,
We
damn.
were gone for like 2 hours.
Shush. Shush. You ever watch Encino Man? Shush.
Hewitt, come on up.
I have Edward Casanova here.
We'll give you our rate. You got it. Actually, look at it first. I don't know the school.
Hi guys, just wanted to quickly say hi, Annabelle and Evie. I don't think I said hello to you guys. Second of all, I'm sorry if my glasses are reflecting the screen. Because I'm writing at the moment, my eyes are taking the strain with the documents. So if I remember, I'll take them off before I'm on camera again. But we're just going to watch a little bit more Judge Fleischer until about the 20-minute mark. So 10 more minutes or so. And then I've got a trial that I've edited down to 3 hours 33. So you might not be able to get through the whole thing today, and I don't know much of what it's about. It's the one I mentioned where I stopped editing a lot when it got to verdict time.
Yeah, we'll give you a copy. Yeah, not worried. We'll give you the copy. Copies of the So you're I'll give you one. You don't have to. I'll give you one. No, yeah, well.
I have Edward Casanova here. Edward.
Edward is here on page 17.
I'm sorry, Judge, I was headed up there right now.
You wanna,
I'm in court 4 and
sorry.
I think it'd be easy for me to just run up there if you want, Your Honor.
It's up to you, Edward. Who do you want to talk about?
I just need a reset, Judge, on my case. I wasn't able to.
Who is it?
Page 17, 18, Perez.
Approach court. I had a lot of cases, so I apologize.
Yeah, it's okay. You can just come to Victoria, whatever you want, or email her. You can have whatever you want, man.
Okay, I appreciate it, Judge. Sorry, I got
Sure.
bogged down today. All
You're
right.
okay.
All right,
Don't worry
bye-bye.
about it, man. Have fun. Life is short. Hey.
Friend Daniel Frazier, who's in custody, Judge. May need to bring him out for this because he wants to set his cases for trial.
Okay, let's do it.
And he wants to request a bond reduction. He has two $10,000 and $3 bonds. He said he can probably make one of them. He has someone that's getting the funds together, but he cannot make.
I'm bringing him
both.
out.
I visited with him about the two paths that we had before us, so.
Okay.
This is where we are.
thank you for being you. You're doing great,
Work on it.
really. So. I wonder if, Mr. Brooker, I wonder if the person who's gonna pony up the money for him knows how many times he's violated or just taken off. And how big of a risk that is, because that's a huge risk.
I don't know the answer to that question.
I know it's a rhetorical question, but it just, they really know. Hey,
We'll get more discovery to we don't have much of anything. To be honest. So. Sure.
Mr. Frazier?
Good morning.
I've been advised by my esteemed coordinator not to go on a 30-minute rant. So you're whatever. So the TRAS recommended that you go to Safe P.
Sad if I can judge.
Or SATIP, I'm sorry, SATIP. I think that's a good recommendation. I think that that's what needs to happen, and if you wanted to do that, we could do that.
This is the guy. We were watching this guy. Judge Fleischer had a long talk with him, and he had mental illness problems. His mom had kicked him out. We watched this guy last week. I don't remember the full story though. Also, hey Mal and hey Paula Mac. And thanks guys for being understanding about the glasses. I know that it's like something I shouldn't have to apologize for, but literally I did a video at some stage for like a vlog thing or something. And someone was like, the light of your glasses is distracting. And I was like, okay, but my eyeballs need to work for me to do my job. So deuces.
That through a deferred, you would end up going into the program. The program lasts as long as how you are. If you are honest, if you are contrite, and if you do what you're supposed to do, it's as short as it'll be. If you're not, and you try to fool them, it just makes it longer. I'm not requiring you to make an answer now. I will let you guys discuss what you want to do. If you don't want to do it, that's okay. I will just set your case over trial and we will go to trial. And if you're found guilty, then we will discuss about doing it at that point. But you and I know that it's just a game that we've been playing over and over and over. So I'm not going to go on a humongous tirade like I've done every single time. So Mr. Brooker's told me that you want a bond reduction also. The bonds are at they are because of the fact that you're a flight risk. You don't come back. We let you out. You go, or I'm sorry, you come when you want to come. You don't come when we ask you to come. And I know that if I let you out, you'll ghost us again. I don't think that you'll come back. So that's why I have the bonds at what they are. So you guys tell me what you want to do. Did you offer deferred?
Sure.
It is 13 months, I believe.
Yeah, sure. It's a 13-month deferred conditions.
So just you let me know what you want to do and we'll go from there. If you do set up a trial, I will try to get it as short as possible because I don't want you to sit there and wait. There's just no sense in just sitting there and resetting it for a long time to wait. Is discovery complete on these cases?
I believe so, Your Honor. The only thing that I could see that was missing was a surveillance video, and that's just because I couldn't play it on my computer. I was going to get with Lily this afternoon to see if she can get it.
The shortest, Pavel, what's the shortest that you could do for a trial setting?
Judge, it would be 30 days, and I would actually request just the API since we don't have a certain, we haven't been able to do the surveillance on the mischief. I would request that not be set for trial yet because the state is not ready at this point, but the API we are ready, and it will be 30 days.
I will do whatever you guys want to do. I'm whatever you want.
I'll take the treatment.
We can send the API to trial, Judge. That one is complete, right? From the API.
Yes.
Yeah, so API is complete. We're ready for trial for that case. We're just not ready for the so we can set that one, but we would need at least 30 days.
And Judge, Mr. Fraser has decided to accept the state's offer of deferred adjudication. He understands there is a 3-week wait to get into SATF, and he'll go into treatment.
I hope this helps. I really do. I want it to. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. And I hope this is it.
Thank you.
Let's do it. Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr.
So,
My apologies, Chris.
Thank you, sir. Just trying, yeah, basically just that part. Everything else, if you're on citizen status,
Right, that's what I was.
Also, the shelter that we offer, 13 months for third.
Okay.
CRAS and all the
Sure.
This seems like a good time to pause. So, first of all, hi Jen, hi Angie. Did I miss anyone? I said hello. I said hello. This heart is like a hotly contested subject. I can remove it, but I know that some people like it. Yeah, I don't know. I'll do a poll or something. Is that his first name? Yesterday he was replying in the live chat of his stream. It was so cool. Thanks, Mel. They're blue light and like very, very, very slightly prescription. Okay, I think it's a good time to move over to our actual trial because I need to go into focus mode and also I need to grab some food first and then I need to go into focus mode. I do have to say I know basically nothing about this trial. I know that you can choose to hide it. Oh, so everyone can choose on their own? Because YouTube likes it. So I don't understand. Yesterday I sent feedback to them with the screenshot and everything and said it makes it hard to read. Okay, so this, you can only hide on desktop. So this trial, I don't know much except that I had to cut very graphic autopsy pictures. So it like zooms in on the witness for a bit. And it is State versus Joshua Lawson. He allegedly attacked a corrections officer in prison. So that's where we're at. And this is in Florida. This is in the same 14th what court that we watched the other one in.
And he is, for the district going to be testifying by Zoom. He's not currently in state. I will ask my investigator to instruct him about, 9.
Fair enough. Investigator Jackson, will you take care of that this morning? All right, thank you. All right, fair enough. Anything else that we need to consider outside of the presence of the jury at this time? Regarding the initial instructions, Ms. Kelly, there is an instruction regarding the defendant's right to remain silent, and that is to be given at your discretion and request. Do you have any specific position on that issue?
We can go ahead and give it. We haven't had a final conversation about whether or not
Sure.
Mr. Lawson is going to take a stand, but we can go ahead and give it.
All right. And then I'll certainly read the note taking by jurors. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been subpoenaed to be a witness at the trial today, please stand. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please understand that you are now under what we call the rule of sequestration. What that means is that you may not speak to each other or anyone else other than the attorneys in this trial regarding the testimony that you would give during this trial while this trial is proceeding. Do any of you have any questions regarding the rule of sequestration? All right, seeing no questions, then you guys are free to go wait in the witness waiting area wherever they've asked you to wait. Okay, thank you guys very much. I've got to pull up my 2.1. I'm having a little bit of trouble with it.
Any questions? Okay.
Are there any other matters that we need to consider outside of the presence of the jury?
Just for clarification, are we questioning seated or standing as usual?
I see no reason why the attorneys can't stand and ask the questions. Why don't we, Chuck, oh, wait a minute, I'll ask him to move the podium. We'll move the podium by the jurors like we normally do. And what we will do though, is if there is a need for a sidebar, we will get the jurors to leave the courtroom. So that it does not seem weird that the defendant's not getting up. Okay, unless you would prefer a different procedure, Ms. Kelly?
That's fine, Your Honor.
Okay. Any anticipated evidentiary objections to any of the testimony? I mean, I will not hold you to this, of course, but can you anticipate any evidentiary objections that you have right now to any of the substance of any of the witness testimony that we could go ahead and address a potential argument?
Nothing comes to mind, or I would have followed a motion in limine.
Okay, and so we'll see how the trial progresses.
Remember, the plan for Officer McCrary is that when the witness before him, Eddie Myrick, is called to the stand, my staff is going to contact Mr. McCrary's on the line. So he'll be on scene for however long. Officer Myrick.
So McCrary goes after Myrick. So we probably need to take a quick Zoom break, or excuse me, a quick break in anticipation of the Zoom, correct?
We can, or I mean, it's to the court's pleasure. I think
He's going to be pretty good to get on and all that.
I think so.
Okay. Well, let's just play it by ear. Let me then go ahead and connect by Zoom. Are they here? He's bringing, okay, so our jurors are here. They're bringing him up to the jury room. And like I indicated, they're coming in the side door, coming in and out of the side door. Give me 1 second. Let me connect to Zoom myself so that I can see when he gets online. And I will be certain to move that individual to a waiting room as soon as I see him come on, so that he does not hear any of the testimony that is going on during the trial. Do we have any witnesses that have just walked in, Ms. Jeffcoat?
No, Your Honor.
All right, fair enough. You guys can have a seat wherever. We're about to bring the jurors in. Any pre-trial instructions that you anticipate or during the trial instructions, like recordings or anything like that we're going to need during the trial?
There's a surveillance video, but there's no like state recorded statements or anything like that.
Okay. What about redactions? Do we need to read the instruction about redactions? Does this defense agree regarding the surveillance video and any need for additional instructions?
We agree, Your Honor, that there's no audio to it, and I think the clips are fairly short, so there's no need for any reductions, and I can't think of any issues with it.
Yes, Ms. Green?
I plan to let Inspector Bassford kind of manage playing the video because he's better with.
Sure. Okay, so you're going to let him do that? Okay.
Look it up in the different houses.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. Let me know when they're here. Is our white noise on? Okay, white noise is on. Excellent, thank you. They're going to tell us when they're ready, right, Chuck? Okay. We ready? Everybody ready for the jurors to come in the courtroom? Let's remain seated for our jurors to enter the courtroom.
You're in the courtroom?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. State, is this your jury?
This is, Your Honor.
Defense, is this your jury? Madam Clerk, please place our jurors under oath.
Raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will well and truly try the issues between the state of Florida and the defendant and render a true verdict according to the law and the evidence, so help you God?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Members of the jury, excuse me. Members of the jury, you have been selected and sworn as the jury to try the case of the state of Florida versus Joshua Lawson. This is a criminal case. Joshua Lawson is charged with aggravated manslaughter of an officer. The definition of aggravated manslaughter of an officer will be explained to you later. The state's charging document, which is called an information, is not evidence and is not to be considered by you as any proof of guilt. It is my responsibility to explain the law to you. It is your solemn responsibility to determine if the state proved its accusation beyond a reasonable doubt against Joshua Lawson in accordance with the law that I provide to you. Thus, the province of the jury and the province of the court are well defined and they do not overlap. This is one of the fundamental principles of our justice system. Before proceeding further, it will be helpful if you understand how a trial is conducted. At the beginning of the trial, the attorneys will have an opportunity, if they wish, to make an opening statement. The opening statement gives the attorneys a chance to tell you what evidence they believe will be presented during the trial. What the lawyers say is not evidence, and you are not to consider it as such. Following the opening statements, witnesses will be called to testify under oath. They will be examined and cross-examined by the attorneys. Documents and other exhibits may be introduced as evidence. After the evidence has been presented, the attorneys will have the opportunity to make their closing arguments. Following the closing arguments by the attorneys, I will instruct you on the law that is applicable to this case. After the final instructions are given, you will then be released to retire and to consider your verdict. You should not form any definite or fixed opinion on the merits of this case until you have heard all of the evidence, the argument of the attorneys, and my instructions on the law. Until that time, you should not discuss the case amongst yourselves. Your verdict must be based solely on the evidence or the lack of evidence and the law. I now instruct you not to communicate with anyone, including your fellow jurors, about this case. No communication includes no posting information on the internet, emailing, or any other form of communication. You cannot do any research about the case or look up any information about the case. If you become aware of any violation of these rules at all, please notify one of our bailiffs of that violation. During the trial, the court will take recesses, and you will be permitted to go about your personal affairs. During those recesses, you must not discuss the case with anyone, nor permit anyone to say anything to you or in your presence about the case. If anyone attempts to say anything to you or in your presence about the case, tell him or her that you are on the jury trying the case and ask that person to stop. And that's why we've given you juror buttons to identify you as jurors. If he or she persists, leave that person at once and immediately report the matter to one of our bailiffs. They will then advise me. All cell phones, computers, tablets, or other types of electronic devices must be turned off while you are here in the courtroom. Turned off means that the phone or other electronic device is actually off and not in a silent or vibrating mode. You may use these devices during recesses, but even then, you may not use your cell phone or electronic device to find out any information about the case or communicate with anyone about the case or the people and places involved in the case. Do not take photographs, video recordings, or audio recordings of the proceedings or of your fellow jurors. After each recess, please double check to make sure that your cell phone or electronic device is turned off. At the end of the case, while you are deliberating, you must not communicate with anyone outside of the jury deliberation room. You cannot have in the jury room any cell phones, computers, or electronic devices. Therefore, if someone needs to contact you in the event of an emergency, the court can receive messages and deliver them to you without delay. A contact phone number has been provided. The phone number that's on your jury deliberation table is that of Clay Rooks, and that's our elected clerk of court. Please give any friends or family members that number. If you are in the middle of deliberations and they need to get an urgent message to you, they're to contact that number, and that's how they can reach you. The case must be tried by you only on the evidence presented during the trial in your presence, in the presence of the defendant, the attorneys, and me. Jurors must not conduct any investigation of their own. This includes reading newspapers, watching television, or using a computer, a cell phone, the internet, any electronic device, or any other means at all to get information related to this case or the people and places involved in this case. This applies whether you are here at the courthouse, at home, or anywhere else. You must not visit the places mentioned in the trial or use the internet to look at any maps or pictures to see any place discussed during the trial. Jurors must not have discussions of any sort with friends or family members about the case or the people and places involved. Do not let even the closest family members make comments to you or ask questions about the trial. In this age of electronic communication, I want to stress again that just as you must not talk about the case face to face, you must not talk about the case by using an electronic device. You must not use phones, computers, or other electronic devices to communicate. Do not send or accept any messages or ask for advice related to this case or your jury service. What are the reasons for these rules? These rules are imposed because jurors must decide the case without distraction and only on the evidence presented in this courtroom. If you investigate, research, or make inquiries on your own, I have no way to make sure that the information you obtain is proper for the case. The parties, likewise, have no opportunity to dispute or challenge the accuracy of what you find. That is contrary to our judicial system, which assures every party the right to ask questions about and challenge the evidence being considered in this courtroom and to present argument with respect to that evidence. Any independent investigation by a juror unfairly and improperly prevents the parties from having that opportunity that our judicial system promises. Any juror who violates these restrictions jeopardizes the fairness of these proceedings, and a mistrial could result and would require the entire trial process to start over. A mistrial is a tremendous expense and an inconvenience to the parties, the court, and the taxpayers. If you violate these rules, you may be held in contempt of court and face sanctions such as serving time in jail, paying a fine, or both. In every criminal proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. At no time is it the duty of the defendant to prove his innocence. From the exercise of a defendant's right to remain silent, A jury is not permitted to draw any inference of guilt. And the fact that a defendant did not take the witness stand must not influence your verdict in any manner whatsoever. The attorneys are trained in the rules of evidence and trial procedure, and it is their duty to make all objections that they feel are proper. When an objection is made, you should not speculate on the reason why it is made. Likewise, when an objection is sustained or upheld by me, you must not speculate on what might have occurred had the objection not been sustained, nor what a witness might have said had the witness been permitted to answer. During the trial, it may be necessary to confer with the attorneys outside of your presence to discuss matters that require consideration by me alone. It is impossible to predict when such a conference may be required or how long it will last. When such conferences do occur, they will be conducted so as to consume as little of your time as is absolutely necessary for a fair and orderly trial of this case. Is there any objection to the reading of Standard Rule 2.1? If you would like to take notes during the trial, you may do so. On the other hand, of course, you are not required to take notes if you do not want to. That will be left up to each of you individually. You have been provided a notepad and a pen for your use if you wish to take notes. Any notes that you take will be for your personal use. However, you should not take them with you from this courtroom. During recesses, our bailiffs will take possession of your notes and will return them to you when we reconvene. After you have completed your deliberations, the bailiff will deliver your notes to me. Those notes will be destroyed because I will personally destroy your notes. And I want you all to know that no one will ever read your notes, including me. If you take notes, do not get so involved in note-taking that you become distracted from the proceedings. Your notes should only be used as aids to your memory. Whether or not you take notes, you should rely on your memory of the evidence, and you should not be unduly influenced by the notes of other jurors. Notes are not entitled to any greater weight than each juror's memory of the evidence. Is there any objection to the reading of Standard Instruction 2.1a?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Is the state ready to proceed with its opening statement?
Yes.
Ms. Jeffcoat, you may proceed.
The jury, Sheila Jeffcoat, is now representing the state of Florida and state Joshua Lawson. Every one of us faces some level of risk when we just roll out of bed in the morning, just going back to early daily business, driving to work, things like that. They all carry some level of risk, but some jobs, like the job of Matthew Sanders, carries a higher level of risk. As a corrections guard, Mr. Sanders worked around people that had already been found to be in violation of the law and were serving sentences for a range of different crimes. And on March the 18th of 2021, Captain Matthew Sanders went to his job at the Graceville Correctional Institute. The events leading up to Captain Sanders' death actually began outside of his presence. You'll learn that on March 18th, an officer named Gregory Dosick got a call to a disruptive inmate. That inmate was Joshua Lawson. Gregory Dosick responded to the dormitory area where Mr. Lawson was housed. He was being disruptive. Gregory Dosick instructed the inmate to cuff up. That was their standard procedure to put cuffs on. And the inmate refused. He not only refused, but he requested to speak to the captain. So Officer Dosick and inmate Lawson start walking towards the captain's office. And you'll see surveillance videos. There's cameras in various locations on the institute grounds. And you will see video footage of the two men walking towards the captain's office. They have to go through a couple of different gates. And you'll be able to see in the video that the defendant is not cuffed. And while there's no audio, you can tell by gestures and if you watch the video closely that the inmate is steadily talking. Okay? He appears to be agitated. They get to the captain's office, and the captain's office is basically it's in a building that opens to kind of a ground or a quad area, grassy area. There's a sidewalk that runs down in front of the captain's office and other offices in that building. And there's a camera at one end that shows that whole kind of length of sidewalk in the captain's office. And so you will see the officer go inside to get the captain. You'll see the captain come out, and you will hear testimony from witnesses, other officers who observed what was going on. You'll also see camera. We'll learn that Captain Sanders again told the inmate, the defendant, to cuff up, which is again standard practice. The inmate again refused to comply with that request. You will see Captain Sanders reach with the inmate's arm as if to place cuffs on him, and at that point, the inmate starts to swing at the captain. He grabs the captain kind of around the torso area. They actually have each other around kind of the torso area, almost a bear hug. And the inmate, the defendant, is able to pick Officer Sanders up, Captain Sanders up, and fling him or throw him to the ground. And you will see that Captain Sanders does not get back up from that ground. After the defendant throws the captain to the ground, he runs, and there are other officers that take custody of him. But you will see Captain Sanders laying there on the ground. I anticipate you will later learn that the reason that the captain does not get up is that he has broken his hip. That the fall, the slamming onto the concrete sidewalk here by the inmate has broken Captain Sanders' hip. He is taken to the hospital. He has surgery. You will hear testimony from both his wife and from the medical examiner, Dr. Radke, that this injury required surgery. And Captain Sanders is eventually released to the hospital and he goes home. Remember, these events all take place on March 18th, the incident with the inmate where the captain slammed to the ground. So he's recuperating at home with his wife. And things seem to be going, well, seems to be improving. He's in pain. His wife talked about, that she could tell he was in pain, but that it started to get a little better. And then on April the 7th, he gets up in the night. He had been sleeping in kind of a medical chair type device to try to that would help him get out of bed or get up on his own. And she had been sleeping on the couch next to him so that they could be together. But he apparently had gotten up on his own. She wakes up in the night to him calling for help. She makes it to, she gets out, she sees that he's not in his chair, and she finds him in the hallway where he has collapsed, possibly on the way to go to the restroom. And he dies right there in front of her. An autopsy is performed on Captain Sanders, and the captain was killed due to the breakage of the hip. The break in the hip was called pulmonary embolism. It's basically a major blood clot that ultimately causes his demise. Dr. Radke will testify that the pulmonary embolism is a known result of section fractures. It occurs about, maybe not to the extent that Captain Sanders did, but they do occur in kind of giant clots that occur about 30% of hip fractures. So members of the jury, I will ask you to listen closely to all testimony and all evidence in this case to find the defendant guilty of this charge. Ms. Kelly,
Thank you, Your
is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, we are, Your
You
Honor.
may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Normally, when someone's charged with a crime or we have a trial, we kind of know a crime was committed, and the question is who was it committed by? So a lot of times in trials, we try to show that the wrong person was arrested for a crime that we knew occurred. This is a little bit different situation. You're going to see a video and you're going to see what happened. But the question that you're going to be left with is what crime, if any, was committed? You'll see that as Officer Dosick and Mr. Lawson are walking through the corridors, Mr. Lawson is in no way aggressive. He's not bowing up. He's just walking to the captain's office, and he had requested to see the captain. You'll listen that he had never met Captain Sanders before. They had no history. They had no prior run-ins. There was no animosity. There was no ill will when this occurred. You'll hear that they were engaged in a scuffle. You will hear that Captain Sanders was about a foot taller and about 100 pounds heavier than Mr. Lawson. So you'll see that what occurred was quick. It was a matter of a second, maybe two, and Mr. Lawson immediately walked away. He didn't proceed. He didn't keep trying to fight or anything like that. You'll hear that Captain Sanders was injured, that he had surgery, that he went home, he was released from surgery. You'll hear that he had several prior medical conditions which predisposed him to blood clots. You'll hear that he tried to tell the doctor that something was wrong, and the doctor didn't do anything about it. He said, it's fine, it's normal. So you'll hear about all of these other factors. And at the end of the trial, after you've looked at all the evidence, after you've listened to all of the witnesses, after you've watched the video, at that point, I want you to ask yourself, what, if any, crime was committed? And you can come back and say some crime was committed, but it doesn't, even if you don't think it's the crime that was charged. So I appreciate your attention, and thank you.
Ms. Steptoe, is the state ready to call the first
Witness?
Your Honor, the state would call Winona Sanders.
Winona Sanders, please. Ms. Sanders, good morning. Before you take the witness stand, please raise your right hand for Madam Clerk to place you under oath. Ms. Sanders, both the chair and the microphone on the witness stand adjust. Please adjust them both so that you're able to speak loudly and clearly into the microphone. Ms. Jeffcoat, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ma'am. Could you please state your name to the jury?
Oh, absolutely.
Winona Sanders.
And ma'am, what do you do for a living?
I'm retired correctional officer, lieutenant.
And ma'am, were you married?
Yes.
And what was your husband's name?
Matthew Craig Sanders.
And what did Matthew Sanders do for a living?
He was a correctional officer captain at Geo Corporation in Graceville.
And how long were you and Captain Sanders married?
It would have been 19 years, April 2021.
In April of 2021, is that when he passed?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to take you back to March the 18th of 2021, the day of his injury. Did you see him that day before he went to work?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And was he in good health at that time? Did he appear fine, walking fine, everything like that?
Yes, ma'am.
And anything unusual going on before he left for work that day?
No, ma'am.
What do you remember what you did that day when he left for work?
Just my usual clean house and do laundry kind of thing.
Do you recall being notified that the captain had been injured?
Yes.
And how were you notified?
Via telephone.
Who called you?
My sister.
And do you know how she had found out?
Her husband worked there.
So you learned that Captain Sanders is injured, and what do you do as a result of that?
Well, they said they were taking him to the hospital, and I got my clothes on and I headed that way.
And which hospital did you go to?
Flowers in Dothan.
Did he get there before you or the other way around?
I got there before he did.
So you hightailed it.
Yes, ma'am.
To Flowers Hospital. And when he arrived, when did you first see him?
When they opened the ambulance doors, and he was in a lot of pain.
And how could you tell that he was in pain?
He was hurting. He was telling me it hurt so bad.
Okay, and you had been with him for many years at that point, so you could tell.
Yes,
His
ma'am.
wife probably that he wasn't right. Did he stay there at the hospital?
Yes. They admitted him
They admitted him. Okay. And did he end up having surgery?
the very next day. Yes.
Do you remember about how long he stayed at the hospital?
He was discharged on the 22nd.
All right, of March.
Yes, March.
Okay, so he has surgery the following day and then gets discharged a few days after.
Yes, ma'am.
When he got discharged, did you guys return to your house?
Yes, we did.
And what was kind of the setup there when you guys got back to the house for him? I'm assuming he was not walking normally at that point.
No, we had to get one of those lift chairs, and he basically just slept in that
And where was the lift chair located?
in the living room.
And did you stay in the bedroom and him in the living room?
Oh, no, ma'am. I slept on the couch right there.
Okay, just to be near him.
Yes, ma'am.
And from March, you said he got released from the hospital March 22nd. How did he do the days after that? Did he make any progress?
He did. He was up. He finally was able to walk to the bathroom with a walker. That took a few days to get to that point. And
that was, I guess, a pretty big milestone.
it was. It was.
I can imagine. And tell us again what else was able to do?
Well, he was able to. Well, that's basically mostly what he did was walk to the bathroom and back.
And I want to take you now to April 7th. Okay. When you went to sleep that night, was it still on the couch?
Yes.
And how had he been doing up to that point? Was he making steady progress?
As far as getting around, he was doing a lot better. We had plans to go to Marietta because we had been to the doctor on the 6th, and then we were going to go to Marietta the next day just to get him out of the house.
Okay. Was that something y'all were looking forward to?
Oh, yes, he was.
I bet. Being cooped up in the house, no fun, I'm sure. So you guys went to the doctor on the 6th. You're making plans to go to Marietta on the 7th. And tell me when you realized that there's a problem, that there's something wrong.
Well, about, I don't know, it's been 9 or 9:30 that night. I had got his water and everything and had him set up for the night. And I told him that I was just going to lay down on the couch, and if he needed anything, just to let me know, And I fell asleep soon after that. And then about midnight, I heard somebody yelling, "Help me, help me." And I jumped up and I ran down the hall, and there he was laying in the hall. And I said, "What happened?" He goes, "I can't breathe." And so I was just going to set him up, and then going to try to help him get up. When I set him up, he passed out, I thought.
Okay.
And so I ran and got the phone and called 911. And everything just went out of my head. I just told the lady, I said, "You got to help me, tell me what to do." And she was helping me go through the CPR thing. And I tried and tried, and the ambulance got there, and then they put I guess a machine on him, EKG machine. I don't know what it was, but she looked at me and she said, "Ma'am, he's gone." And then my whole world just turned upside down.
From the time that he passed out when you lifted him up, did he ever regain consciousness?
No, ma'am.
And so EMS comes, they tell you that he is gone. What happens after that?
Then the deputy came and he took my statement and everything. And then the funeral home came and they picked him up.
Did you stay with him until
the whole time?
Thank you. I'm going to
Ms. Kelly, do you wish to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Your witness, Ms. Kelly.
Thank you. Ms. Sanders, prior to this incident occurring, had Captain Sanders had any sort of health issues?
He was a diabetic and he had a kidney removed, and he had some thyroid issues, and he had cancer in, I believe it was 2009.
What sort of exercise regimen did he have?
He was just very active at his job, and then when he come home, he'd mow grass and do lawn work and things like that. He wasn't a dog or anything like that.
Okay. Did he go to the gym or anything like that?
We did for a little while, but then we quit like everybody else does.
Okay. And when I believe you testified that he was originally discharged on March 22nd.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When he was discharged, did the hospital give him a clean bill of health at that point? I mean, other than obviously still recovering from the injuries, but did he appear?
Yeah, all he was in pain.
Okay. And once you got home, did they give you any sort of therapeutic or preventative measures things for him to do at home?
Well, they had a physical therapy person come in for him to get him back going.
Okay. Do you know if they had him on any sort of blood thinner or heparin or anything?
They had him on, not heparin, they had him on a 325 aspirin.
Okay, so they just had him on aspirin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But no, to your knowledge, no prescription blood thinners?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did he have any sort of history of heart disease, family history of heart disease?
His mother had a heart attack, but he didn't have it.
Did he have high blood pressure?
He was on high blood pressure medicine, but it was because of his diabetes. But he really didn't have real high blood pressure or anything.
Okay. Did they give him any sort of compression socks or the little inflatable tubes they put on your legs?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so there was no clot prevention from the doctors at that point?
Just the aspirin.
Okay. And you indicated that you went to the doctor the morning of the 6th.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he passed between the 6th and the 7th. When he went to the doctor's office on the 6th, was there anything that that he was telling them that was going on then? It was kind of out of
He
the
had spit up some little blood clots and we notified the doctor of that.
Okay, so prior to him going to the doctor, he was already coughing up some blood clots?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how long has that been going on?
I think he just did it maybe once or twice.
Okay. And then did the doctor do anything once you informed them of that he was spitting up clots?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. I have any more questions?
Any redirect by the state? Counsels, may this witness be released or do you wish for her to remain subject to recall?
I don't either.
All right. Ms. Sanders, you are released from your trial subpoena. What that means is that if you wish, you may now remain in the courtroom. Okay, thank you. Yes, you may have a seat. Mr. Jeffcoat, do you wish to call your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The state would call Gregory Dosick.
Gregory Dosick, please. Mr. Dosick, good morning. If I could please have you raise your right hand to be placed under oath by Madam Clerk.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Mr. Dosick, both the chair and the microphone on the witness stand adjust. Please adjust them both so that you're able to speak loudly and clearly into the microphone. Ms. Jeffcoat, your witness. If you'll adjust your mic as well so that we don't have audio issues with our jury, that'd be great. Can everyone hear everyone well? Okay, excellent. Go ahead, Ms. Jeffcoat. Sir, can you please state your name for the record?
It's Gregory Dosick.
And sir, where do you work?
I work at Blackwater Correctional Facility.
And what do you do at Blackwater Correctional?
I'm a lieutenant.
All right. And before working at Blackwater Correctional, did you work for GEO at the Graceville Correctional Institute?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And were you working there on March the 18th of 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
Approximately how long had you been working at that facility at that time?
Roughly 3 years.
All right. And did you, are you familiar with an inmate named Joshua Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you see Mr. Lawson in the courtroom today?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you point to him and tell us what he's wearing?
That black jacket and button-up shirt.
And if Your Honor, if the record will reflect, he's identified the defendant. The record will so reflect. Going to March the 18th of 2021, did you have any interaction with the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
And where did you first interact with the defendant? Where did you first see him?
Inside of Alpha Dorm.
Inside the Alpha Dorm. Was that where he was normally housed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what was your reason for going to Alpha Dorm?
He was refusing to submit to hand restraints.
Okay. And were you summoned there or were you present when he initially refused to submit?
I was called over the radio.
Okay. So when you get there, tell us what you do.
I speak to Mr. Lawson. He refused to still submit to hand restraints. At this time, I took him to my supervisor.
Okay. And what was Mr. Lawson's demeanor like when you first started interacting with him?
He just didn't want to follow orders.
Okay. And is submitting to hand restraints, is that a normal procedure at the prison?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is that, I mean, that's something that's routinely done. Inmates are asked to put on hand restraints.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so when he refused to submit to hand restraints, was he saying anything?
He just said he wasn't going to put them on.
Okay. Did he make any request to speak with anybody else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And then why did you end up taking him to see the captain?
That's the next chain of command.
Okay.
Take him to the captain.
Okay. So as you go to the captain, does he agree to walk with you to the captain's office?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And was he, was he being calm or was he saying anything? Tell us about how he's acting.
He didn't say anything. He just walked beside me.
Okay. Okay. And when he walked with you to the captain's office, he wasn't struggling or anything, right? He agreed to walk with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell us what happens when you get to the captain's office.
I let the captain know what was going on, and he stepped out the office to talk to him. Mr. Lawson had an ink pen in his hand previously before captain stepped outside.
An ink pen?
Yes, ma'am. We
Okay.
did take the ink pen from him.
Okay.
He handed it over.
Okay.
The captain instructed Mr. Lawson to submit to hand restraints,
Mhm.
which he refused. The captain attempted to place hand restraints on him.
Okay. And is that a normal, what do you guys normally do when somebody won't submit to hand restraints?
Force can be utilized if he refuses to submit to hand restraints.
Okay.
We normally give them several orders to submit first.
Sure.
And that's the process for that.
Okay. And so at this point, I guess another officer before you couldn't get him to submit, and then you were called and you couldn't get him to submit. So now you go to the captain. And so this is kind of just the next step in the chain.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what happens when the defendant refuses to submit to hand restraints at the captain's request?
The captain attempts to place hand restraints on Mr. Lawson, and this time you can observe Mr. Lawson flip the captain over his shoulders.
Okay. And does the captain go to the ground? Does he fall to the ground when he's flipped over his shoulders?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when he goes to the ground, what do you do? What happens at that point?
I utilize chemical agents on Mr. Lawson in
Okay.
attempts to get him into hand restraints.
Okay. So this is like an escalation of force, right?
ma'am.
Okay. Are you and another officer eventually able to get the defendant into hand restraints?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, at some point, do you go back and see the captain? Or did you leave with the inmate?
Me and the other officer took the inmate to the
Okay. All right. And did you speak or see the captain anymore that day?
I seen him before he left
Okay. And how did he leave?
on ambulance.
On an ambulance. Okay. All right. Your Honor, at this time, I'll tender this witness. Does the defense wish to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Kelly, your witness.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Officer Dosick, I believe you said at some point pepper spray was employed. Okay, was that before or after the scuffle with Captain Sanders? After? Okay. And as you were escorting him to see Captain Sanders, you indicated that he was not saying anything?
No, ma'am, he was not.
Okay. And y'all had requested that he turn over a pen,
Yes,
and,
ma'am.
and he did so willingly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you investigated for making false statements?
No, ma'am.
You weren't?
No, ma'am.
Okay, for not turning over money or something like that?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
You may. Come on up, guys. Hold on, Ms. Kelly. Madam. Ms. Kelly, your witness, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to tender the witness subject to recall.
All right. Anything further from the state at this time? Mr. Dosick, you are still under your trial subpoena. What that means is that the rule of sequestration that I explained earlier to you still applies, and you are subject to recall. So if you will continue to wait in the witness room, that would be great. All right, thank you. Does the state wish to call its next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The state will call Officer Eddie Myrick.
All right, Officer Eddie Myrick. Officer Myrick, good morning. Please raise your right hand so that Madam Clerk can place you under oath. If I could please have counsel's approach, no court reporter necessary. Jeannie, go ahead and put it back on. White noise back on, just for a minute. All right. Mr. Myrick, I may have already said this, but both the chair and the microphone adjust. Please speak loudly and clearly into the microphone, okay?
Okay.
Ms. Jeffcoat, your witness. Sir, can you please state your name for the record?
Officer Eddie Myrick.
And what do you do for a living, sir? What do you do for a living?
Where do I live?
No, what kind of job do you
I'm a
have?
correction officer.
Okay, sorry, let me get this microphone just a little closer. And how long have you been working in corrections?
Right now, about 17 years.
All right. And which facility do you work for?
Graceville.
All right. Were you working at Graceville on March 18th of 2021?
Yes.
And did you work with a Captain Sanders?
Yes.
And how long had you worked with Captain Sanders?
At that time, it was about 14 years.
About 14 years. Okay. And do you recall an incident on March 18th where Captain Sanders was injured?
Yes.
Okay. What position were you working? Like, what was your area where you were working at the time of that?
The North Gate.
All right. And what were you doing at the North Gate?
North Gate, where we direct inmates to the call outs.
All right.
Education.
Okay. And did you see, what did you see happen to Captain Sanders?
I saw inmate Lawson pick him up, body slam him.
Okay. Do you see inmate Lawson in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And can you point to him and tell us what he's wearing?
Yeah.
Okay. And Your Honor, if the record reflects he's identified, or he's pointed to the defendant, can you tell us what color shirt he has on?
It's plaid, look like blue or black.
Okay. Your Honor, the record reflects he's identified the defendant. The record will so reflect. Sir, when you saw that happen, what did you do?
I went to assist to, I tried to get there, didn't get there in time, but he started running to the south end of the gate, and that's when I saw Officer McCrary and Officer Dosick. And I went to help restrain him, but they had already had him restrained.
Okay. So he ran towards
Southgate.
the South Gate, which was away from, I'm assuming, the North Gate.
Right.
Okay. And so by the time you got to them, he had already been taken into custody. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. What did you do after that?
I went back and assisted Captain Sanders stay by his side.
Okay. And was he able to get up on his own?
No.
Okay. Do you recall if an ambulance was called?
I do not recall.
Okay. Did you, are there surveillance cameras at the facility at Graceville Correctional Institute?
I know it's on the wall. Both ends of the wall.
All right. And have you had an opportunity to watch some of the surveillance where this incident occurred?
Yes.
Okay. And does that accurately show what you recall happening? In the
Yes.
scene? Okay. Your Honor, may I please- You may. Sir, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit A, just for identification purposes. And looking at this disc, can you tell me if you have any identifying marks on there that recognize it?
Yes, my initials.
Your initials. And so after watching the video on this disc, did you initial it?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to tender the witness. Does the defense wish to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Officer Myrick, when all this occurred, where were you standing?
Excuse me.
Where were you standing?
At the North Gate, at the podium.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you were at the North Gate and they were between you and the South Gate?
Mhm.
Okay, so you kind of were behind everything that was going on?
Yes, back as you see.
Okay, so you were facing that direction?
Yes.
All right. Have you watched the video?
Yes.
Okay, so from my view of the video, it kind of looks like inmate Lawson is just past, or Mr. Lawson's just past the guards, but you could see Mr. Lawson and all that the entire time?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. I have a few more questions.
Anything further from the state from this witness? All right, Mr. Myrick, you are still under your trial subpoena, and the rule of sequestration that I instructed you about earlier this morning still applies. So if you will, please go back to the waiting room and remain subject to recall. Thank you. Ms. Jeffcoat, our witness on Zoom is present. Does the state wish to call its next witness at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. The state would call Officer Cody McCrary.
Madam Clerk, if you will, please put Polycom TVs. Ms. Jeffcoat, he was on Zoom. I put him in a waiting room. Could you have someone call as well and see if he may not have understood that, because I couldn't let him hear the other testimony. That's him. I see him, but I don't see him in my room, in my Zoom room. Guys, bear with us. The technology is always, I see him. He just logged back on. Officer McCrary, this is Judge Garcia. Are you able to hear me and see me? I'm going to chat with Mr. McCrary, Officer McCrary, and ask him to please turn on his computer audio.
Hello?
Officer McCrary, can you hear me? This is Judge Garcia.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Officer McCrary, just give me 1 second. Tell me, what state are you currently in, officer?
I'm currently in Minnesota.
Ms. Jeffcoat, as an officer of the court, can you represent to me that he is who he purports to be?
I personally personally met with Officer McCrary the last time he was in town. We had flown him down here for a different trial. And I met with that.
And does the defense have any objection to that introduction?
No, Your Honor.
Officer McCrary, do you have any objection to me placing you under oath while you are in a different state and I am in the state of Florida?
No, ma'am.
Officer McCrary, if you will, please raise your right hand. Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right. Thank you, Officer McCrary. Ms. Jeffcoat, your witness.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. Can you please state your full name for the record?
Jacoby Kinsey McCreary.
All right. And Officer McCrary, what do you do for a living?
I'm a federal correction officer at the moment.
All right. And you're a federal correction officer, and do you work up there in Minnesota where you're at now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And before going into federal corrections, did you work in corrections in the state of Florida?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell us where you were working back on March the 18th of 2021?
At Gracefield Correctional Institution.
All right. And sir, when you were working at Gracefield Corrections Institution, did you work with a Captain Matthew Sanders?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And were you present on the prison grounds the day that Captain Sanders was injured?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, can you tell us where you were at when Captain Sanders was injured?
I was coming out of Charlie unit because I was inside security, which was like basically a roaming officer. And I was coming from Southgate. I seen Officer Dosick come out of Alpha with the inmate Joshua Lawson. I stepped across Northgate and I looked left towards food service for some reason. And then I looked right, and that's when I seen the inmate body slam Captain Sanders.
Okay. And by body slam Captain Sanders, can you give us a little more description about what you saw?
I seen Captain Sanders like reach towards him, so I like lunged at him to grab him. I just seen the inmate literally like pick him up and just slam him, like body slam him.
Okay. Body slam him to the ground?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you have any, what happened after the captain was body slammed?
I ran towards to help, but the inmate ran towards me looking back, and then he turned to see me, he dropped to the ground, so I got on him and cuffed him up.
Okay. And so you just happened to be heading in the right direction to kind of intercept inmate Lawson, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you have any contact with Captain Sanders after that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Once the inmate was cuffed up, where did you guys take him? Was
normally
there a specific holding place?
Yes, ma'am. Well, in situations when they're going to confinement, we normally take them to medical to get pre-confinement. But we went through the emergency door in medical, I think because they were working on the other door. And when we got in there, he became kind of erratic. So we took him straight to confinement and to the holding cell in the showers.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, at this time I'll tender the witness.
Ms. Kelly, do you have any cross for this witness? And don't forget, he cannot hear you if you're not speaking into the mic.
Hi, Officer McCrary. Were you in a position to witness any of the lead ups to what was going on here?
No, besides him coming out of the Alpha dorm where he was outside.
Okay. So where were you kind of located in reference to the events that occurred?
As far as when he slammed Captain or when he was coming out of Alpha?
From the time that he gets to the captain's office, were you there with Officer Dosick and Mr. Lawson the entire time?
I wasn't physically next to them. I was literally maybe 30 feet, like looking towards him.
Okay. And then how long would you say this action occurred? Was it seconds?
Yeah, probably maybe 15, 20 seconds, maybe 30.
Okay. And when you asked Mr. Lawson to get on the ground after this happened, did he comply?
I didn't ask him. He just looked at me and dropped.
Okay. But he immediately got on the ground?
Yes.
Okay. And had he been pepper sprayed?
No.
Okay. I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Does the state have any redirect? And don't forget, he can't hear you if you don't speak into the mic. Yes.
A couple of questions. Officer McCrary, when you came to the state attorney's office previously, did you watch a surveillance video of the incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall that? And did you initial the disc after you watched it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did that video accurately reflect what you saw happen in person?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Officer McCrary, we can only kind of see like part of your upper body and your face, but you're a pretty big guy, right?
A little bit. I ain't too big. I'm bigger than.
Okay. You might have played some college football and maybe a little bit pro.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so when you are coming towards the inmate Lawson, you don't even instruct him to get on the ground. He just gets on the ground.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
Can I just one follow-up?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Thank you. Officer McCrary, about how tall would you say Mr. Lawson is?
I don't know off the top of my head. That was my first run-in with the inmate, so I really don't know. I know he wasn't taller than me, maybe 5'8", maybe 5'7".
Okay. Okay. All right. If you don't recall, that's fine. Thank you.
Anything else from the state? Counsels, may this witness be released?
Yes.
Officer McCrary, you are released from your trial subpoena. Thank you for joining us, and you are free to disconnect and go about your day.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, if we could go to none NTVs. Thank you, ma'am. Does the state wish to call its next witness?
Certainly, Your Honor, and I've asked Mr. Gill to assist me in getting, I anticipate playing the videos with this, so I asked him to come in to help.
Absolutely. Fair enough. We all need tech support.
But yes, Your Honor, at this time, the state would call Inspector Julian Bass.
All right, Inspector Bassford. Inspector Bassford, good morning. Please raise your right hand so that you may be placed under oath by Madam Clerk. Inspector Bassford, both the chair and the microphone on the witness stand adjust. Please adjust them both so that you're able to speak loudly and clearly into the microphone. Ms. Jeffcoat, your witness.
Sir, can you please state your name for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Julian Grady Bassford, also known as Jerry Bassford.
All right. And sir, how are you employed?
I'm an inspector detective for the Florida Department of Corrections, Office of the Inspector General,
And how long have you been in that role?
since August of 2015.
And what are your duties as an inspector?
I'm a criminal investigator. I investigate criminal acts that occur within the Florida Department of Corrections.
And before becoming an inspector, what did you do for a living?
I was a deputy sheriff and investigator for the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, and prior to that, a police officer for Marion Police Department.
All right. And sir, did you investigate an incident that happened at Graceville CI on March the 18th of 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the nature of that incident?
I received a report of a inmate on staff incident where a staff member was injured.
And how, you received a report. Okay. Upon receiving that report, what did you do?
I went to Graceville. That was a particular call that we would respond immediately to. I went there and initiated our investigation and conducted interviews and collected the evidence that was there.
All right. Did you interview the officers that were present during the incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were their statements consistent?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you also able to obtain and review the surveillance video at the institution?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And can you kind of describe the surveillance cameras there at the institution? Like, what are they, how are they positioned, things like that?
There are numerous cameras across the compound there that capture different angles. It's not all covered on video, but the majority of that institution does have some sort of video coverage.
Okay. And those recordings, I guess they're always recording, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And when you got a copy of the surveillance from this particular incident, did it show what happened or the incident where the officer was injured?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what was the officer that was injured? What was his name?
Captain Matthew Sanders.
All right. Your Honor, may I? Absolutely. Can I show you what's been previously identified as State's Exhibit A? Can you look at that item and tell me if you recognize it?
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you recognize it?
My initials are on the front of it. That is the video of the incident.
All right. And there's some other initials on there of other officers that have reviewed it. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, this is how the state would like to offer, file, and introduce State's Exhibit A.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit A is now admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit A. Does the state wish to publish?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sure, take your time. And the state may publish. Madam Clerk, if you will please put Prosecutor PC on TVs and on the TVs in addition to the Polycom.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'll get the video queued up and then I'm going to turn over the mouse to the inspector.
You may. You may, and you may move about the courtroom if you wish. Yes, there's a sound associated. Is that right, State? Or no?
Not audio.
Okay, fair enough.
Inspector Bassford, tell us kind of what all we're looking at. It looks like we have multiple little screens up.
Yes, ma'am. The top left camera angle is the Sally Port area of a dormitory. So is the one to the right. That is between the front door of a dormitory and another set of doors that's entrance and exit into that dormitory.
Okay. And so the top left and top middle are both a dormitory. Is there a camera? Where are the cameras located in these images?
So those are opposing cameras showing two angles of the same area. The top left is looking towards the outside doors where the light is shining in.
Okay.
The top middle is looking inward toward the dormitory, and through the windows there you can see the officer station that's in the center of that dormitory.
Okay. Can you point to with the mouse where the officer station is?
This white wall that you can see through the window is the officer station sitting in the middle of the four quads of that dormitory.
Okay. So basically in the top left and top middle, if I'm understanding you correctly, there's basically two cameras, one on each end of a sort of a hallway.
Yes, you would see if somebody was exiting the dorm, they would come through these doors, and as they disappeared from camera view here, they would be appearing here, headed out the front.
Okay. And then the bottom left, what area is that in?
The bottom left is what they call the north gate. It's the end of the sidewalk. The bottom right, or excuse me, bottom middle there is the north sidewalk. This is a dormitory.
Okay, that white building is a dormitory?
This white building is a dormitory. So these doors are the same doors that you see in this camera.
Okay.
So if somebody exited these doors, you would see them appear here.
Okay.
And come down this sidewalk. And as you came up north sidewalk, you would appear at this gate.
Okay. And so essentially the camera angles are not in specific order necessarily of where we were watching it, but you've seen this many times. So can you kind of tell us the path of that we will be watching?
Yes, ma'am. So you'll first see the escort officer, Dosick and Mr. Lawson come out through these doors You will see them come out the front door here. They will appear on the sidewalk outside of the dorm, follow the sidewalk up. There's a brief moment here that they may not be covered on video. They will appear on this sidewalk, and this is the program's sidewalk, which is this camera angle here. And North Gate is at the far end, kind of where my mouse is. There may be a small gap there of not covered.
Okay, that bottom left camera angle or screen, is that on the same sidewalk as the top right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, are they at opposing ends as well?
That's correct.
Okay, and then can you tell us if where the captain's office is?
The captain's office, and I will click on that one, make it a bit larger, is right in this area behind the title of it. And on this camera system, you can choose options to remove the overlays on it where you can see better.
Okay, so that where it says 78 programs exterior walkway, that's an overlay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I think part of our incident kind of happens where that overlay is. So can you deselect that so we'll be able to see what happens a little more clearly? All right. And I have seen that you have enlarged, you can enlarge the screens.
Yes, ma'am.
And so when you play it, can you kind of enlarge each screen as we need to see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And sir, if you will kind of start with the first area where we will see inmate Lawson and start from there.
Okay.
All right. And switch to the next, I guess, camera angle. And for the record, that was camera, I guess, number 92, is that correct? Is that or there's a 92 in the top right-hand corner. Is that the
There's a
only one?
95 in both of them. I'd have to put the overlay back on it, but that was this middle. And they go back to the same order.
I'm sorry, okay, the top middle.
The top middle.
Okay.
And you can see them here before I enlarge it. They've appeared on this camera now as they've made it out of this camera view.
Which is the top left
The top,
video.
top
Okay.
left, yes, ma'am. And then they appear on the bottom middle.
Okay. And so we're playing bottom middle now, correct?
Yes, ma'am. As they exit view of the bottom middle, they should appear on the bottom left on this side of the screen.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So now playing bottom left.
And this gets in the area where some is more visible than others on the other camera angle.
Okay. And so now top right, correct?
Top right, yes. So that's the captain's office that Officer Dosick has walked up to.
Okay. All right. And so could you back it up just a little bit? I want to ask you about just before the captain comes out. All right, if you'll hit play again, sir.
there's no audio in any of these, correct?
No, there are no audio recordings at this particular.
Okay. Now, at any point before the officer goes to, kind of reach for the inmate, we've heard some testimony that he was going to try to place him into handcuffs. Do you see any of the officers deploying any chemical agents or anything like that?
I do not.
Okay. If you could hit play again. All right. Now, sir, after the officer was injured, do you know if he went to the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. And ultimately, you did speak with him. I can't ask you what he told you because it's hearsay, but did you end up speaking with him after this incident?
Yes, I did a phone interview with him after the incident.
Okay. And then you also interviewed the other officers that were present prior to the use of, or to the officer getting slammed to the ground, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, at some point, did you learn of Captain Sanders passing?
Yes, ma'am.
And how were you notified of that?
The then assistant warden, Terry Dudley, called me and let me know that Captain Sanders passed away.
Okay. And did you end up speaking with the, do you know if an autopsy was performed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And where was the autopsy performed at?
At the medical examiner's office in Panama City.
Okay. And were you present for that autopsy?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you also speak with the medical examiner? And you can't tell us what he said, but did you speak with him?
Yes, ma'am.
And did he give you an opinion? Again, now he'll testify later, but did he give you an opinion about the cause of death?
Yes, ma'am.
And based on that, what did you do?
I completed a probable cause affidavit charging inmate Lawson with an open count of murder.
Okay. Right. Your Honor, I'll tender the witness at this time. Ms. Kelly?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your witness.
Thank you. Investigator Bassford, were you present for any of the incidents that occurred here?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So everything that you learned was through the course of speaking with witnesses after the fact?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then later on, after the immediate incident here, were you present for any of the relevant factors or incidents that occurred?
As far as, could you ask that question again, please?
Were you at Captain Sanders' home?
No.
Okay. Did you go to any doctor, or to Captain Sanders' doctor's appointments?
No, ma'am.
Did you speak with any of his doctors?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So the information that you gathered, and essentially your function was kind of gathering all the information and organizing it and making the case, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So all of the information you gathered was from outside parties?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't have more questions. Thank you.
Anything further from the state? May this witness be.
Oopsie. I should have turned on my mic before I just cut it. I hope there's a verdict in Karen Reed today. Britta, I'm so sorry to hear about your friend. Sending lots of love. There's nothing really that anyone can say. I need tech support in my brain. There's nothing anyone can say that's like the right thing. I also thought she was saying this. I even looked down but then my camera wasn't on, so you guys would know that. Morning, Teresa. What else did I miss? Just trying to scroll my way through. Josh, Teresa was looking for you, I think. I don't know if that's old. No, snow has not been mentioned. That's awesome. I'm so glad for you. You do deserve it. Much needed, much deserved. And don't worry about the membership thing. I appreciate the views, the comments, everything. Bug, I have no idea because they don't really say what parts get rolled out when in all of it. You know what I always love when someone comes to my house, I also say don't bring anything, and then they bring flowers. That's so nice. I have a friend of mine who always brings a bouquet of flowers. It's so nice. A board made out of cheese board. Okay, so here's where I'm at. In about 30 minutes, I need to leave. So I'm going to leave this running for a bit, crank out some work, and then I'll say goodbye just before 1/2 past, maybe like 25 past-ish. Because I need to take my cousin to the airport, and I think StreamYard might cut the stream if I close my laptop. So I guess we'll see. Also, so far, I don't really see how they're getting anything but guilty. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Be released, or do you wish for this witness to remain subject to recall? All right, Investigator Basford, you are not yet released from your trial subpoena and you do remain subject to recall.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a good place for us to take a mid-morning break. Please remember that you have not yet heard all the evidence, my instruction on the law, or the argument of the attorneys. Therefore, do not form any definite or fixed opinions regarding the merit of this case. We will have a little bit of a longer break, so you are welcome to speak to your family and friends about personal matters or whatever you wish, except do not speak to anyone or allow anyone to speak to you about this case. Please leave your notes and do not discuss the case amongst yourselves. Please leave your notes on your chairs and they will be guarded until it is time for you to come back. Everyone remain seated for our jurors to exit the courtroom. Chuck, they may walk about or remain in the room, whatever they prefer. Let the record reflect that the jurors have exited the courtroom. However, still present in the courtroom is counsel for the state, counsel for the defendant, and the defendant. Counsels, how are we coming with Dr. Radke? I know he's coming from Panama City, but how are we coming? Rory, what you know?
With Investigator Whit Majors on the phone at 9:45. He stepped in and talked with the doc. He was gonna put on his jacket, come this way immediately, so it's driving time from his office in Panama City to the courthouse.
So maybe by the end of the break, he'll be able to testify. Maybe. Well, we can start doing some. It's okay, but I don't think waiting till 2 is, I didn't want to wait till 2, obviously. I mean, it's just too much time to ask the jurors to wait. Okay. All right, Jeannie, could we take Prosecutor PC off of the TVs and go back to camera quad to the Polycom? So camera quad for the Polycom, none for the TVs. Excellent, thank you. All right, so that is anticipated to be the last state witness.
Yes, Your Honor, and I do anticipate that there will be 7 photos shown during Dr. Radke's testimony.
Okay.
And I know that there are some.
Lawrence, move the mic for, thanks. Go ahead.
I do anticipate 7 photos to be shown during Dr. Radke's testimony. Those were photos that Dr. Radke picked that would best help him explain victims' injuries to the jury. I do know they could be distressing to friends and family members in the courtroom, so I just wanted to let the court know and as well as the audience know that, that those could be available.
So for those friends and family members that we have in the courtroom, please know that you may remain in the courtroom while those photographs are coming up. If at some point during those photographs it becomes uncomfortable, then I am happy for you to quietly walk out as long as you are not disrupting the work of the jurors during that process. Or if you wish to simply remain outside of the courtroom while Dr. Radke testifies, then you may make that decision as well. But that choice is yours. Do you want to, why don't we take a break? Then we'll come back and we will begin discussing jury instructions preliminarily as we wait on Dr. Radke to arrive. Okay. And then we'll have any motions and whatnot. Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll be in recess.
Yeah, it's just moving. I anticipated more like sidebars and stuff. Thank you. I don't know why it worked automatically. Normally I have to do something to make it work, and it did not. I didn't need the thing.
All right, we're back on the record in Jackson County, case number 21 CF 610. Today's date is June the 25th, 2024. The time is 11:15 a.m. Present in the courtroom is counsel for the state, counsel for the defendant, and the defendant. The jurors are not yet present in the courtroom. Ms. Jeffcoat, officially, we anticipate that the state's last witness, Dr. Radke, is almost at the courthouse. Is that right?
That is correct, Your Honor, except the state does intend to briefly recall Inspector Basford.
All right. Fair enough. Ms. Kelly, we had some discussions off the record regarding whether or not you would be allowed to inquire regarding Gregory Dosick and some offense that you believed may have had him terminated. Have you had sufficient time to speak to your client regarding this issue?
Yes, Your Honor. I had initially believed that there would be an argument as to bias involving Officer Dosick and Mr. Lawson, but after speaking with Mr. Lawson, he does not believe that there was any bias on Dosick's part towards him. So.
All right, Mr. Lawson, if you will raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right. Do you need any more time? You can put your hand down, sir. Do you need any additional time to speak to your attorney about that issue? All right, fair enough. So you don't intend to recall him, at least as of now. Certainly, if you choose to, then I'm happy for you to do so.
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right, fair enough. So while we have some time, let's continue. See here? Okay. Let's go ahead and bring the jurors in then, and you can call whatever witness you wish to call next, Ms. Jeffcoat. And then
Can I just have a
go ahead.
second just to let him know?
Come on up, Dr. Radke. Dr. Radke, if you'll stand next to the witness stand, we're going to place you under oath as soon as the jurors come out. All right. Any reason why we can't bring the jurors in, counsels? All right. We're going to remain seated for the juror. Actually, just have a seat, Dr. Radke. We're going to remain seated for the jurors to come in. Let's bring them on in.
Jury in the courtroom.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Is the state ready to call its next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The state would call Dr. Radke.
All right. Dr. Radke, hello. If you will please stand and raise your right hand for Madam Clerk to place you under oath. Dr. Radke, the chair and the microphone both adjust. Please adjust them both so that you're able to speak loudly and clearly into the microphone. Ms. Jeffcoat, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, sir. Can you please introduce the record?
J. Michael Radke.
And sir, what is your occupation?
I'm the District 14 medical examiner.
And how long have you been working in that role, sir?
9 years now.
Describe your education and your training for your fill that role.
I have an undergraduate degree from Florida International University. I have my doctorate in medicine from Central Caribbean University. After that, I did a 4-year residency in pathology at Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami-Dade County. Following that, I did a 1-year fellowship in forensic pathology. After that, I sat for my boards and got board certified in anatomic and forensic pathology.
And sir, have you, you said you've been working with the 14th Circuit Medical Examiner's Office or as the medical examiner for how long?
9 years.
9 years. And then before that, you worked for some other medical examiner's offices.
Correct. I was a medical examiner in Miami-Dade.
And sir, have you previously testified in court as an expert?
Yes.
And in what?
Forensic pathology.
Forensic pathology. And can you tell us what is forensic pathology?
So pathology is what they do in the hospitals when they diagnose tumors, when they do all the labs, like do a CBC and stuff. And then forensic pathology is just specifically in how people die and the medical legal aspect of it.
And sir, approximately how many times have you testified as an expert?
Probably over 50.
Sir, can you tell me if you performed an autopsy on a gentleman named Matthew Sanders?
Yes.
And what was the date of that autopsy?
I believe it was the 8th of April, 2021.
And were you able to determine a cause of death?
Yes.
And what was that?
It was pulmonary saddle embolism due to deep venous thrombosis, due to a complication of a right femur fracture due to a physical assault.
Right. And what was the manner of death?
Homicide. That the death resulted because of an action, intentional action by someone else.
And so let's go back to the cause of death. Can you kind of describe that some more to the jury what a pulmonary saddle is?
So you have a large vessel that leaves your heart and takes the blood to your lungs to get the oxygen. And a saddle embolism is a blood clot that blocks that artery off, so it can't get blood to your lungs. So basically stops all the blood. It's like putting a plug that'll stop all the blood going to your lungs.
And sir, when you perform an autopsy, do you take photos during that process?
Yes, we do.
And were photos taken during the autopsy of Matthew Sanders?
Yes, they were.
Were there any photos that you selected that would help you describe the injuries sustained by Mr. Sanders as well as the ultimate cause of death?
Yes.
You may.
Sir, I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit E1 through 7. And how do you recognize these, sir?
They're photos from my autopsy.
Okay. It looks like you have a unique autopsy number in some of the photos. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, everyone gets a case number.
Your Honor, at this time, we would like to offer file and introduce these exhibits B1 through B7.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
What's been marked for identification purposes as the state's exhibits B1 through B7 shall now be admitted into evidence as state's exhibits B1 through B7, and these will be available to you during your deliberations.
Your Honor, may we publish at this time?
You may. Madam Clerk, if you will please put prosecutor PC on the TVs, and as long as we still have camera quad on Polycom.
All right, sir. I'm going to give you the mouse.
Okay.
Okay. I have a little pointer on it that might help you with the process of our advance.
Okay.
I go first to state's exhibit B1. And what are we looking at in this photo here, sir?
So this is a photo of the decedent as how we received him into the morgue with his clothes and all.
All right. And who do the funeral homes transport the when somebody has died outside of a hospital? They sometimes transport them to the autopsy to the medical examiner's office.
Many times it's a funeral home, or we also have a transportation service.
Okay. And exhibit B2.
This is showing his right thigh, and then right here and right here are where he had his surgery to repair his broken femur that was underneath here.
Okay. And so those are basically like surgical scars or surgical injury sites?
Yeah, so this is where the surgery is still healing up from where he had it.
Okay. Now going to state's exhibit B3, sir, what are we looking at here?
So I've opened up his chest, and I'm lifting up one of his lungs in my hands right here, and then that's the airway, and then I'm showing underneath the airway right here, this red, white area, that's that blood clot that's blocking off, coming out of the heart and blocking off that vessel to the lung.
Okay. And I think we have another image of that. Your state's exhibit B4, sir, what are we looking at here?
So that's that clot that I just showed, and I'm grabbing it with forceps, and you can see that it's blocking off that whole area and how firm it is.
And state's exhibit B5.
So this is the clot after I removed the whole thing. So this was going into both sides of both lungs. And so you can see this is a large clot in the shape of that airway, in the shape of a vessel, excuse me, and how it broke off.
And so this is after it's actually been pulled out of the artery.
Correct. That's after taking the whole thing out of the lung.
And so state's exhibit B6.
So now I'm looking in the back of the right leg, the leg that had the surgery. And there's a blood vessel right here. And that's a vein that has a little bit of clot left. And there's another vein down here that also has some clot left. And that's in the back of the leg where those clots started.
Okay. And so the clots would have started, and is that the leg where he had the surgery?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so the clot would have started in the leg and then traveled up to
where you were eventually removed it from chest?
Correct. So the clot would have been there and then it would have broken off and that whole thing would have gone through the system, like going through a tube or down a drain, and then until it ended up where it couldn't go any further, which was the lungs.
And now looking at State's Exhibit B7, sir.
So now I'm taking all the muscle and the skin off the leg and reflected back, and that's that fracture line right here that was previously repaired. You can see there's a little, very thin line that went through the bone right there.
And the cause of death, pulmonary embolism, is that a known complication for hip fractures?
Yes, it's one of the most common complications.
How frequently might that be seen?
It's generally seen in at least around, different studies are different, but in 1% of all people who have hip fractures, so 1 out of 100 people will end up having a pulmonary embolism.
Okay, so 1 out of 100 people that have a hip fracture will have a pulmonary embolism.
That's correct.
Your Honor,
Does the defense wish to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Kelly, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'm going to take.
Yes, you may. And Madam Clerk, if you will put none TVs. Thank you. Ms. Kelly?
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Radke, your residency was in pathology, I think you stated.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and so pathology, do you normally treat patients while you're doing that, or is it mostly examining specimens, things of that nature?
There's some of both. We have rotations where we treat patients in like transfusion medicine where we get blood products, but then there's also a lot of specimens and laboratory samples.
Okay, and since residency, and have you had treated any patients since then?
Sporadically.
Okay, but it's not something that you do normally within the normal course of your profession?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have any sort of specialty in endocrinology?
No, I don't.
Okay, how about hematology?
I studied hematology because it's part of pathology.
Okay, so is that something that you do fairly often in living patients? I guess I should.
No, but sometimes, we'll end up diagnosing like bloodborne cancers, different kinds of coagulopathies and things like that in postmortem.
Okay, how about pulmonology?
No.
Cardiology?
Just in the cardiac pathology aspect of it, not the like giving drugs or treating somebody with heart disease.
Okay, orthopedic surgery?
No.
Okay. In performing this autopsy or preparing for trial today, have you reviewed any of Captain Sanders' previous medical records?
Most likely I did, yes.
Okay, just since the surgery occurred or throughout the course of his medical history, say within the last year to 5 years?
I don't have a specific recollection of exactly what medical records I reviewed.
Okay, did you speak with any of his treating physicians after the surgery?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So there are other things that can cause blood clots besides surgery, right?
Yes.
Okay, those include things like immobility,
Correct.
a family history of blood clots.
If someone has a genetic disorder that would predispose them to something like that.
Okay, age.
Not necessarily. It has mostly to do with the age-related immobility.
Okay, obesity.
Yes, also related to immobility.
Okay, smoking.
Yes.
Previous cancer treatments.
Yes, also.
Okay, hormonal therapies.
Some of them, yes.
Heart disease or high blood pressure.
Generally don't cause pulmonary emboli.
Okay. Heart disease is not associated with pulmonary emboli or blood clots.
They're separate things, so I would say high blood pressure is generally not. So you generally don't see people die of blood clots who just have high blood pressure.
Okay. How about lung disease?
Well, a pulmonary embolism would be associated with a lung problem. Some chronic inflammation in the lung can also cause it.
Okay. Inflammatory bowel disease.
Rarely.
Dehydration.
Usually that'll go to obesity, immobility, and spectrum of things like that
Okay. Circulatory issues.
as well.
Okay. Is diabetes associated with circulatory issues?
Yes.
What are some symptoms of blood clots? What's something to look out that it's coming?
A lot of times it'll be pain or swelling in the legs, heat or warmth, redness in the legs if it's a leg blood clot, and then if it breaks loose, it's shortness of breath a lot of times or sudden death.
Okay. How about coughing up blood?
It can be, but that's a non-diagnostic sign.
Okay. Chest pain.
That would go with the shortness of breath most likely.
Shortness of breath, dizziness.
Yes, when the blood can't get there because of the air.
All right. Do you know if there are any things that can be done to prevent blood clots by surgery, like blood thinners, things like that?
Generally, I don't treat people after surgery, but I know there are lots of different things that they do for people in surgery.
Okay. What things are you familiar with?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. I think this is outside the scope of the witness's expertise.
Overruled. I'll allow it.
Thank you.
They can give them like anticoagulants. Sometimes they do rehab, or they do rehab things in rehab. They can put like pressure sleeves on their legs. Those are some of the things I know about, but I'm sure there's a lot of other things that I have no idea about.
Okay. Do you know if they ever do any sort of internal filters within veins or arteries in the body?
Yeah, sometimes they do that, but I believe that's generally after someone's already had a big clot. But like I said, I don't put those in people, so I don't know.
Did you find any evidence of one of those in Captain Sanders?
No.
Okay. Did you review what medications he was on other than analgesics after the surgery?
I reviewed his medical record, but I don't specifically remember what the medications were.
Okay. When you reviewed his medical records, did you look at any of those other factors that we talked about in blood clots? If he had COVID?
Like I said, I don't recall exactly what else I read in the records.
Okay, so you don't recall, other than him having surgery, you don't recall the content of any of them?
No, not specifically.
Okay. How tall was Mr. Captain Sanders?
I believe he was 6'2".
Okay, and about how much do you weigh? Do you recall?
remembering a note, 219 pounds.
Okay, all right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Does the state wish to redirect
Yes, Your Honor.
your witness?
Dr. Rackney, ultimately, Captain Sanders died as a result of a blood clot in his lung, correct?
Yes,
And that blood clot, if I understand your testimony correctly, originated from a broken femur.
that's correct.
So the broken, whether or not he was diabetic or had smoked in the past, that didn't cause the blood clot, correct?
I mean, it could have increased his risk factors, but having the immobility of having the broken leg and not moving and is what caused it.
Okay. And you found evidence when you performed the autopsy that the blood clot had actually originated from the area of the broken femur, correct?
Yes, correct.
No other questions, Your Honor.
Anything further from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be released, counsels?
You may, Your Honor.
Defense? All right, Dr. Radke, you are released from your trial subpoena and may leave the courthouse. Does the state wish to call any additional witnesses?
Your Honor, we just would like to recall very briefly Inspector Bassford, and it
All right.
shouldn't be more than a few questions.
Sure, Inspector Bassford.
Inspector Bassford.
Inspector Bassford, you remain under oath. Please speak loudly and clearly into the microphone. No need to place you under oath again. Ms. Jeffcoat, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Inspector Bassford, the incident where we watched the video where Captain Sanders was thrown to the ground,
Yes, ma'am.
that happened on Graceville CI campus, correct? The
Yes,
FD
ma'am.
Institute. Is that, what county is that located in?
Jackson.
Jackson County. All right, thank you. I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Does the defense wish to cross-examine this witness?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Inspector Bassford, you're still subject to recall on your subpoena. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a good time for us to take our lunch break. The time is 11:34. We will continue to do some work while you guys take a lunch, and I need to give my staff an hour lunch break. So I'm going to ask that you guys come back at 1. And that'll be about an hour and 25-minute lunch break. And at that time, we will resume the trial. Please remember, you may not have yet heard all of the evidence. You have certainly not heard the attorney's arguments or my instruction in the law. Please do not form any definite or fixed opinions regarding this case until such time, and do not speak about the case either among yourselves or with anyone else. And we will let you go to lunch, and we'll see you guys back at 1 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Okay. Since I just took the shirt off, so that's why my hair's a disaster. So since this is a natural break, I think now's a good time for me to say goodbye. And if there's a gap later, then I'll do the rest. It is we're 1 hour 26 into a 3 hour 33 video. So we still have a little way to go. I will see you guys later. And otherwise, I'll see you in RA's chat, depending on where I am at that point in the day. Let's hope for a verdict. Bye.